Good morning and welcome everyone to our Aging Bodies Wellbeing in Practice Forum. This health promoting practical session is aiming to support our health promotion partners or health service partners to build and maintain the physical strength, agility, cognition and active engagement of your clients as they age. I'm Tracy Blythe, the Executive Officer of the Inner East PCP. Thanks for registering. It's great to see so many participants that are interested to learn more about healthy ageing. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung and Boonwurrung peoples of the Kulin Nation, where our service spans, and also other Indigenous traditional owners on whose unceded land our online gathering takes place. I pay my respects to their elders and recognise the debilitating intergenerational impacts of colonisation, racism, and the sorrow of the stolen generation for these communities. I also recognise their knowledge, resilience, and ongoing contribution to the health and wellbeing of the whole community. I would also like to acknowledge the Victorian Department of Health for the funding to enable us to support our partners to enhance and improve population health and wellbeing by building workforce capability through events like these. We're really delighted to be able to collaborate again with Leanne Metcalf, who many of you will be familiar with during her leadership of healthy ageing at Melbourne University. Leanne has been a terrific support to our PCP's work over many years, and we're very fortunate to be able to access her specialist expertise today to learn about the physiological changes that occur through the ageing process, to set the scene for how we can best support ageing well. Leanne has over 25 experience in healthy ageing, 25 years experience. She has developed positive ageing accords, facilitated forums on ageing, presented at conferences, undertaken reviews in the ageing sector, and done extensive research in ageing, particularly in cultural engagement. Leanne recently presented with us on the evidence base on intergenerational practice, and these fabulous resources can be found on our website. We're also delighted to welcome Leanne Metcalf, a somatic movement practitioner and director at Live Mindfully Australia. Leanne has over 25 years experience teaching and practicing yoga, including developing Somatic yoga teacher training in 2004. She has an advanced diploma in somatic therapy, a strong knowledge of anatomy, and has also taught mediation, somatic movement, and also somatic Pilates at the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre. Like me, I'm sure you're all very curious to learn more about somatic therapy and its application to bodily health and wellbeing. Welcome, Leanne. Then we will hear from Lana Hollian and Tom Thompson, co-presenting on the City of Boroondara's Functional Fitness Program, a strong collaboration between council and community. Lana currently coordinates the Active Ageing Policy and Project team at the City of Boroondara, and the team's work focuses on active ageing in the community and providing opportunities for older people to stay connected, engaged and active. Lana's currently studying her Masters of International and Community Development at Deakin University and has a particular interest in human-centred design for social services. Tom has been working in the sports and recreation industry for the past 10 years with experience in delivering sports and leisure events for government agencies and managing large recreation facilities and completing research in sports participation to help meet the growing demand for open space. Tom's recently made the switch from sports and rec and joined the active ageing team at the City of Boroondara. In his current role, he's responsible for delivering a range of projects outlined in the Council's Healthy Ageing Plan, including work around digital literacy, community resilience, and functional fitness. Tom is passionate about work that provides opportunities for people to improve their health and wellbeing and having a positive impact in his local community. So welcome, Lana and Tom. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your innovative work. I'd like to finally thank Sarah Lawsberg, our Healthy Ageing and Engagement Coordinator, for organising this and emceeing today's workshop. We hope you all really enjoy it and find useful ideas to integrate into your health and wellbeing practice or on a personal level. And now I'd like to ask people to turn off your video and mic, and I'd like to warmly welcome and hand over to Lena. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Tracy. I'm just going to share the screen here. As the title says, this is a very, very brief outline of some of the physiological changes that occur with age. Each slide is probably a whole subject in itself, and they're not all here, of course. So we're all aging. Whatever age you are, we're still aging. And there are many changes that occur, which some of which are visible and some are not. But the changes are starting to occur in terms of aging from your 20s and 30s. So it's quite deceptive. And that I'll talk about a little bit later, but there's some brain changes. But some of them that are visible are posture, gait, skin texture, hair color, dexterity. Ailments are not necessarily visible, but they're there anyway. And there are many sorts of ages. We talk about biological age, physiological age, social age, emotional age, age of consent, age of retirement, driving age. But the thing to remember is that as little as 20% of how you age is actually due to genetic factors. We often think that, yes, we're going to follow our parents in the way we age, but in fact, it's not true. The other 70 to 80% is actually due to lifestyle factors, and we'll talk about those a little bit later too. So first of all, chronological age versus physiological age. We're so fixated on chronological age, and that's the only thing we think about. We're always asking people how old they are, or, you know, when their next big birthday is, and so on and so on. But the fact is that research shows that 2 people at the age of 38, for example, can have a physiological or biological age of plus or minus 12 years. So these 2 people, these two 38-year-olds, one can have a 26-year-old body and the other can have a 50-year-old body. So it's quite diverse. And it's to do with many factors. And as I said, many of them are lifestyle factors. So now the blue zones you may have heard of, but they're the zones in the world, there's 5 of them that are recognized, where there are 6 to 10 times more centenarians. There's a lot of research that's been done about why there are so many centenarians in those areas. And the factors that come up on, and you can look at that pyramid there, but the thing that's the most important is that sense of belonging, sense of connectedness, sense of purpose. So it's actually things that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be so important. Obviously, then there's nutrition, there's outlook, and there's movement. But the lessons, there are the 9 big lessons from the blue zone. So moving naturally, having a purpose in life, really feeling as if you belong to a community, a family. It doesn't really matter, can be groups, any sort of collective. Minimize stress. The 80% rule with food is actually stop eating when you're 80% full. I think many of us, or most of us, have a tendency to keep eating until we're actually full. Plant-focused diet, and the Mediterranean diet is quite a good one. It's not the only one, of course, but it's one that comes up. Alcohol in moderation. Obviously look after your loved ones first, no matter whether they're family or not, and belonging. Walking is going to come up a lot, and you'll see why by the end, but researchers have found that actually your creativity levels increase when you walk. So a person's creative output increases by an average of 60% in walking, which is often why when you're walking, you actually get ideas. I know that for myself, when I get clogged up with my writing and my research, I'll go for a walk because it actually helps me to think. So we think with our bodies, which again will come up again and again. Now, I wanted to talk about functional ability and intrinsic capacity. So again, the biomedical focus is on intrinsic capacity, which is the total of physical and mental capacities. But in fact, what's really important is your functional ability, and that's the interaction between the individual and the environment. So, for example, somebody in a wheelchair, if you put them in an environment with lots of stairs, obviously you're reducing their functional ability massively. Yet if you put them in an environment where there are no stairs, or at least there are alternate ramps, then their functional ability actually increases. So we need to stop focusing on the individual in isolation and start thinking about the individual in their functional environment, because that's the thing that's really important. Now, bodies. Bodies are actually not a single thing, but they're multiple systems, and they're all interconnected. So they work together like an orchestra, or possibly even more like a car. There's lots of different systems and things can go wrong with all of them. But the thing is that when one part of a system normally is not working so well, the others tend to compensate. And when I talk about bodies, I'm always including the brain, which is technically an organ anyway. And as I said, we think with our bodies, which I'll explain a little later. Breathing, obviously, it's crucial for everything, for life, but it's crucial for homeostasis, so keeping your systems in tune. We need oxygen for muscles and organs. And here's the thing, we can't feel our organs, so we don't really know what's going on with them. And people sort of, I know my father, who needed oxygen, would say to me, I don't need that oxygen, I feel all right. But the thing is that he couldn't feel his organs, and he was doing a lot of damage to his organs. So lung capacity declines due to many things, and that can be bad posture, lack of exercise, reduced chest mobility, arthritic changes. And vital capacity, which is actually the volume of air that can be expelled when you take a deep breath in, is actually a predictor of mortality. So we need to think about things like posture, about chest mobility and those sorts of things. And it's related to the mobility of the rib cage, of course, too. So again, that thing of moving, we need to keep moving. Now, our skeletal system and bone density, bone tissue is constantly being recycled, but what happens with age is that there's less production and more resorption. So you end up with less and less of it. And even short periods of activity result in the loss of bone mass. So bones become thinner and weaker with age. And we actually lose, and this is the reason we lose height or we shrink when we get older, because the intervertebral discs actually begin to degenerate or compact. So by 70, the age of 70, 60% of discs have severe degeneration. And yeah, we become shorter. Now, muscle mass is another thing that changes with age. We lose 1 to 2% a year from the age of 50, which is still quite young, and we lose strength and endurance. But the good news is that if you exercise, we can actually maintain muscle mass, or certainly reduce the rate of loss. Now, the interesting thing here again is that the loss of muscle mass actually starts from the waist down. So this is why you'll find older people often have trouble getting out of chairs, because they don't have the strength in their legs anymore. So and walking is a really good thing to actually maintain that muscle mass. So obviously muscles atrophy much faster if you don't move. And there's reduced blood flow as well, which impacts other things. Posture and flexibility. So we need to actually try and maintain this, because discs harden and lose their flexibility. The cartilage, synovial fluid, ligaments, tendons, they're all impacted. Bone and muscle mass are impacted. So inactivity is still one of the main issues, and sitting for long periods of time is particularly deleterious. And just give a thought to all the aged care homes that you've been to. What are most people doing in them? They're doing the thing that is actually extremely bad for them, which is usually sitting in front of the TV. Now, movement or gait is actually extremely complex, much more so than you would think. And that's why you hear people say walking is one of the best forms of exercise, because it involves more than 1,000 muscles. and it's synchronized around 200 bones and 100 movable joints. So in fact, when you walk, you're actually using a lot of muscles, many more than you would imagine. Next time you go to the beach and walk in the sand, just walk really slowly and give a thought to every single bit of your body that's actually moving. It's actually a lot more than you imagine. Now, walking has been called controlled falling by some. And if any of you have ever had an injury where you had to do rehab to learn how to walk again, you'll find that walking is actually, it's a strange movement in a sense, because you have to destabilize yourself to move. So there's a small movement backwards so that you can move forward. You need to push into the instability. So the idea of it being controlled falling is actually quite accurate. So there are a number of things that affect gait in older adults, and these include muscle weakness, reduced range of joint movement, reduced vestibular and proprioceptive acuity, meaning losing your sense of where you are in space. So not knowing exactly where your leg is or your hands are. The thing I wanted to say about this as well is that feet are really important. So a lot of people actually, there are a lot of reasons that people stop walking or walk less. And with older people especially, it can be feet, it can be the wrong shoes, it can be pain in the feet or pain in the ankles or the knees. So if you're trying to find out why people are not walking so much or why they're disinclined to walk, you need to actually look at the whole body, because it could be so many things. Now, reflexes also slow down with age. The brain's response time begins to decline slowly from 24 years of age, which is quite surprising. It varies massively from person to person, as do all of these things that I'm talking about here. But the thing I wanted to mention also was falls, because falls are actually preventable, and there are lots of reasons that people fall. The thing that's really concerning about falling is that because our bones are less dense with age, the bones can break. So a fall for an older person will have a much greater impact than it will for a younger person. When we're young, we're made of rubber, so we tend to bounce back. Or if we do break something, it heals very quickly. But what happens with age is that we don't heal as quickly. So a fall can actually result in hospitalization, which is fairly disastrous for an older person for many reasons, which we don't have time to go into. As I was just mentioning, immune and healing systems actually weaken with age. So it means that we're less resilient in that sense. And we're also less responsive to vaccines. So recovery from any injury, illness, or infection is much slower, and the body produces fewer immune cells. So some of the tips back on that are eat well, move often, don't smoke, sleep well, and minimize stress. Brain health is a massive topic on its own. Again, blood flow and oxygen are critical to brain function as they are to all functions in the body. So movement's really important, because that's how we get the blood flowing, and that's how we get more oxygen into our system. So we need to not sit still. We need to think about vitamin B, because it's actually really important for brain health. In fact, we absorb much less vitamin D as we get older. Be careful with our cholesterol. Mediterranean diets have been shown to be one of the better diets for brain health. And social exercise, which means participation, so interacting with other people, is really important for many reasons. Senses. So how many do we have? We talk about 5 senses, 6 senses, but in fact, the research shows that most researchers in this area are now thinking at least 20, 24. So here's a list that starts with 24. It's actually much more complicated than we might think. And all of these senses work together. When I said before that we think with our bodies, if we don't, if we took away all our senses, we actually wouldn't be able to function, because we need the senses to think. That provides us the input for us to function. I'm going to talk about thirst in a minute, but if you think about interoceptors, these are often the things that we don't think of. So blood pressure, blood oxygen, spinal fluid, acidity, thirst, hunger, lungs. We also have a sense of time, and we have a sense of magnetism. So we're actually sensitive to those things, but we're not aware of them. Obviously, sensitivity, heat and cold we are. Balance, I just talked about. Thirst is very important. Up to 60% of our bodies are actually made of water. And what I've found, and what most researchers will agree on, is that a lot of older people don't drink enough. So, and sorry, I should say don't drink enough water. People drink tea, coffee, alcohol, all sorts of other things, but we actually need plain water for our bodies to function correctly. Yes, there are many people that would say, yes, I drink plenty, but not quite the right thing necessarily. Somatosensation. Somato means body, and Leanne will talk about this a little bit more, but somatosensation is actually the total of all sensations we feel. So we've got a lot of receptors, as we just talked about before: chemical, pain receptors, heat receptors, pressure and location, light, body in space receptors. So somatosensation is actually all of those working together, and we actually, if you think about taste, once you lose your sense of smell, you can't taste anymore, or your taste becomes limited. So that shows you a little bit about how they work together, but all of them are working together all the time. We really can't separate them out. Vision is a big one. So the eye actually contains over 70% of sensory receptors of the body, which explains to you why loss of sight can impact you so badly. There's lots of things that happen with age, and there's a list of them. But the thing is that reduced sight, actually, what it does is that it impacts your mobility. It also impacts, pardon me, access to information. So people seeking information. The reduced mobility can lead to falls. You can't see something, so you trip over it. And it can actually trigger depression. So it's a big one. These are the senses I was talking about a little bit before: proprioception and equilibrioception. So proprioception is knowledge of the position of your joints in space, so where your body parts are. So try closing your eyes and putting your hands in different positions, or doing some of the complicated yoga poses. It's so much harder when you close your eyes, but that tells you how your proprioception is working. So we have a loss of brain volume with age, and lesions can lead to reduced proprioception with age. Equilibrioception is balance, and we're most balanced if we keep our center of mass over our base of support. That photo on the right there is some older people doing tree pose. It's interesting to try balancing on one leg. One of the biomedical aging researchers that I was talking to said she stands on her one leg every morning when she's washing her teeth. So she'll balance half of her brushing routine on one leg and then change over to the other. It's actually interesting to find out how well your systems are working just by trying that out, balancing on one leg. You don't have to be in tree pose, but just try to balance on each leg and notice whether they're different, because that's the other thing that happens. There can be a difference from one leg to the other. And notice how many muscles you're using, because not only are you using a lot of muscles in your feet, your ankles, your knees, but you also, you should be actually contracting your glutes, and also notice what your upper body is doing. If your body is sloppy, then you're more likely to fall over. But if you're holding it a little bit tighter, it actually helps you balance. So that gives you a really good sense of how your balance is going. So at the end of the day, the big thing is inactivity. It is the worst thing that you can do for your body, totally. So I would say keep moving, breathe deeply, and drink water. And thanks to the the input of these researchers who research into brain health and body health. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much for that presentation, Lena. It was great to have an overview. I know there's a lot more detail under each of those topic areas, but I think you've really given us a good high-level overview, and that's been fantastic. Thank you. So I'll pass over now to Leanne, and she's going to demonstrate and explain some of the somatic therapy work that she does. So I'll welcome Leanne to switch on her video and her microphone.
Hi, hello. Thank you,
Leanne.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and yes, welcome. And first of all, I'd like to just speak about just briefly the somatic work that I do, and it's on a physical and actual mind level. There's many somatic, it's a little bit like yoga at the moment. There's many yoga variations, and it's the same now with somatics. I've actually spent 15 years learning about somatic work. And so I was taught by several psychologists and psychiatrists who were also meditative practitioners, as well as dance and yoga and movement instructors, which I also teach. And also I'm an observer of the mind. So that really takes me into the whole senses as I'm working. So, and at this moment, I'm also working with an osteo on circular type of motions to actually get a sense of the fascia through the body. So, so today, what I'd like to do is demonstrate, but also, as I said, I would like for you to also experience some of the movements that I'm talking about. So, yeah, please join in. And some of the exercises also were taken from a woman called Julie Henderson, who I studied with for many years, and she has her PhD in somatic embodied studies. So, so first of all, I'd like to talk about breathing, and we're going to start with an exercise. And I know you think, well, you know, that's an unusual exercise, which is called sighing. And so a lot of these embodied processes that I'm talking about is actually innate in us, but we've sort of forgotten, or we sort of push them to the side. And, you know, and I think the question we need to ask, not just as an aging body, but as a body, is how do we embody ourselves as living beings? Quite often we sort of step outside of ourselves and do things. You know, I've been into gyms, I work at gyms, and, you know, I see people on the treadmill watching the TV at the same time. And I think, wow, how much of, you know, are they living in their actual body whilst they're doing that? So, so I'm just going to briefly read something here as well on sighing from Julie's book. And she says that anything that opens the breath is a good thing, because when we breathe as much as we actually need, we are more vital, more responsive, more energized, more accurate in our perception. Sighing also specifically pumps the central diaphragm, okay, which helps the other diaphragms to move. So in somatics, we learn about all these specific diaphragms in the body, and we talk about, you know, when they get constricted. So we're wanting to get like pulsation, aliveness happening in these diaphragms. So the more toned and resilient our diaphragms are, the more easily and appropriately we're able to move fluids of our body. So it's a little bit what Lena was talking about, that blood, lymph, cerebrospinal fluids, which means we feel more mobile and less stagnant. So appropriate fluid movement means appropriate energy movement and distribution. So as a somaticist, as I said, we look at, you know, how we have mobility through our body, how much we use our body. Of course, as we start to get older, and sometimes, as I've seen this actually with our age, people are quite rigid and stiff in their movements. And so everything they do, they carry that attitude with them. So we're trying, as I said, to look at the mind, break down that attitude of, say, rigidity that's held in the body, and become actually more fluid. So sighing, let's give sighing a go. So we're going to look at sighing. We'll look a little bit also at yawning as well. And as I said, we do this naturally. We forget about them, or we've created myths around them, particularly yawning. Yawning's rude, yawning's this, yawning's that. Put your hand over your mouth as you yawn, all of that stuff. So and so we actually negate our natural impulses or our natural responses to life. Okay, so let's start with yawning, and please do this with me because, as I said, as a somatic therapist, it's all based on experience. So, all right, so let's sigh together. So simple. Take a deep breath in, and then it's just a ha. And again, take a deep breath in, and ha. Now, what you'll notice with me is when I'm sighing, there's a lift, and I'm starting to yawn at the same time because naturally I'm responding to my environment of sighing and my body's wanting more energy and more oxygen. So it's a your central diaphragm here. I'm doing both. I'm doing a combination of yawning and sighing at the moment. I'm trying just to stick with sighing. I do this in my classes a lot, and we have the same responses. We start sighing, then all of a sudden we start yawning. So ha, ha, ha. That's your sighing. Ha, 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 ha. Now, what happens is as we sigh, there's also a dropping down into the body. Ha, ha, ha. Particularly as I notice with aging, and at the moment I work, just so you know, I work with a very diverse group of people. I actually work in the same room, people who are chair-bound, people who are recovering from illnesses, people who have got able bodies, and also online. And I've got them all in the same room. So I'm looking for what's going to glue us together as a community and what we can work with and enjoy, be playful, be embodied as much as what we can. And as I said, we start with sighing and yawning, and everyone can participate in that. I don't leave anyone out. So people who are sitting can do it. People who are standing can do it. People online can do this. So we all take a breath in. Let's do it together. And then we go, ha, and again, breath in, and ha. We take a breath in. So again, naturally, we start to just work with the breath. So I'm not giving them these tools of, hey, this is how we breathe. This is natural. Ha. And then we start to actually enjoy the next part, which is yawning. And yawning is fabulous. And we've forgotten how fabulous yawning is. So yawning is simply, so we're pumping up everything. Everything expands, and then we're yawning. We're creating pulsation. Everything starts to pulse in the body. Remember, the cells actually pulse in the body. So it's and then yawning. And it's funny because when people start, they're a little bit like, oh, they're covering their mouths and things like that. Then we start laughing and enjoying the actual yawning process. So again, let's just do a couple more yawns. So and then yawning. And again yawning. Let's do it actually just a few more, because what I want you to also notice is when we yawn, what happens is sometimes we get tears in our eyes. We start to get fluid in our mouth. That fluid that we swallow helps, believe it or not, with our digestion. Okay. When we actually yawn, we start crying. Okay. We get tears. It washes, okay, the muscles around our eyes. What I said, there's an innate intelligence that we naturally have that we actually put aside. This innate intelligence also helps us with many other forms of movement and exercise. So on one hand, it's the foundation to literally being an alive body. So again, sighing and yawning. Ha, 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 ha. And then once we started the breath process through the body. We start to then move. Okay, we add in other movements. And one of those movements that we do, and which they enjoy, and again, people can do it seated, they can do it standing, they can do it online. So today you're online with me, we can do this together, is rocking. And rocking also complements walking, what Lena talked about. So I'll go into the rhythmic motion of rocking and how that helps with walking. So again, I'm just reading from a book here from Julie's, and she says about rocking. We live by pulsation, by the rhythmic opening and closing of pockets and tubes within the body. Our heart, our lungs, throat, brain, intestines, eyes, these all open and close to function. All the organs, the cells themselves pulse, each according to its own rhythm of well-being. If this pulsation stops, we stop, or at least our body stops. So this is where rhythmic pattern is hugely important. This is where I'm actually working with the osteo at the moment on these rhythmic rolling motions for that fascia, because the fascia, it wraps around all of our muscles, and what happens is we have these cross lines over the fascia. First they thought that, you know, these static moves would actually work with fascia, and then they've discovered at the moment that fascia, as I said, likes to move in these rolling type of motions. Everything gets tugged on, everything starts to move. Rocking has got an aspect of that. So rocking, very, very simple. Again, simple movement and fun to do, easy to do, inclusive. So part of being a somaticist is inclusivity, including everyone in our environment. All right, so rocking. So if you're sitting, simply, you can close your eyes, and actually this is very good also for proprioception. So you can just close your eyes and rock from side to side. And as you rock, you may notice that there's an enjoyable aspect to this. So it's just a simple rocking from side to side. So rocking is one of the easiest ways that we can invite ourselves back into rhythm and pulsation. Okay, that truly suits us. So I'm not saying rock this way, do this way, this way. It's just a simple, innate way of moving. So again, going just from side to side, and then we can also go back and forth. So there's a back and forth motion. And what I usually say to the people in my class, usually I'm going to say women here because at the moment there's actually all women in the class, and is that also just to feel your butt on the chair, okay, your butt on the cushion, your butt on the floor. If we're standing, okay, of course I say notice your feet, and we're going to do this standing as well, though people who are on the chairs, they usually stay seated and just still a part of the whole process. So there's rocking here, just back and forth. And then the next part is that we're going to be actually standing. So from here, just take off my glasses here. So again, we get a base of support. So again, we need to be able to feel our feet here on the ground, and it's a simple rocking from side to side. And again, as you rock, you can feel just a natural motion, a natural pulsation, a natural rhythm that happens. And people really enjoy rhythmic motion. I think it's understated how much people enjoy it. Of course, you know, you see people enjoying music and moving. So from here, we're just rocking from side to side. And you can close your eyes and do that as well. So different sensations. So we're getting to know our body in motion. And then what this leads into as well is a little bit of jiggling. Jiggling is, so you may have already noticed these are very almost like childlike exercises. The wonderful thing about when we're younger is that we'll rock, we'll jiggle, we'll do all that. And as we start to get older, we stop all of this. So as I said, this is really important as we get older to continue this. So I work also with people who are in their late 70s, and everyone can jiggle. Again, they can jiggle in the chairs if they're chair bound, because they can do a little bit of bouncing. And what's so wonderful about jiggling is that when you think about it, when you think about a baby, when you think about a child who's just, you know, learning to stand, they'll hold on to something or even their mother's leg and they bounce. And the reason why they're bouncing is because they're getting strength in their legs. They're connecting to their feet. When we get older, you know, we start to actually, you know, we walk a little bit like this. So we forget about the bounce in our body. So we have to take some time in getting trust and confidence in coming back into the bounce. So a lot of these exercises is about trust and confidence. The way that I interact with people is very playful for them to, you know, to actually have that confidence and trusting their bodies again. So we do jiggling. And so the jiggle sometimes can be a little bit like this. Sometimes they get more of a bounce through their body. They bend in this. If you're at home, please, or sorry, in the office, I should say, have a go. You know, I hope you're standing up and you're jiggling with me. Because to understand these exercises is that you need to embody them and feel. Get to recognize sensations. So you can also close your eyes and look, and I even introduce sound, okay? So as we jiggle, we're all jiggling and we're all, we let ourselves just bounce a little bit of sound. And if you can feel free in yourself, you know, when you're working with others, they really get involved. All right. So it's, as I said, it's about community, it's about involvement, it's about participating, it's about being in the room together. And so we bounce right down into the arms, into the hands, into the fingers. So let your legs go, bounce a little bit more. You make sound. We're connecting to the ground. You know that from a somatic point of view, we lift up a lot of the times, particularly, you know, as we get older, we can, even though we start to sort of shrink, as Lena was saying, you know, due to the disc through our spine and etc. And sometimes gravity pulls us down. So funny, our mind sort of is still up and out a lot of the times. We're not sort of, we don't integrate what we're doing in our body. So again, this helps that integration. So we'll jiggle. So we'll just do this for 10 more seconds. If you're not joining in, joining now, 10 seconds worth. Okay, so joining in, 10 seconds of jiggles. Yawning and sighing at the same time. And then from here, you can close your eyes, and what you may notice is tingling through your body, tingling around your hands, your fingers. You might notice sinking through your shoulders. You might notice a natural sway. And you're becoming aware of sensations in your body. That's going to complement your living intelligence. That will complement you when you're walking. All of a sudden, you recognize that you've got legs, that you can actually walk. What I notice when I'm teaching sometimes is people literally drift off. This helps them. These moves help them come back. So we have breath, the body breathing, we have pulsation, we have rocking, we have rhythmic motions. Lena also mentioned, I think, the rhythmic motion in walking. So there's an actual rhythmic motion when we walk. And if we forget about that, as I said, we become more rigid, we become more tight, we have usually a fear of falling will start to come into the mind. So that's where we work with the mind as well. It's like, how can we come into a place of trust and confidence? And usually, as I said, things like rocking, yawning, sighing helps with that. It brings confidence back to actually the living being. All right. So and then another aspect that we do, and I thought we could actually do that now, is so that you can take a seat. This is working with the breath. It's working now with rhythm. It's also now working with a little bit of coordination. So your arms can come out. And then from here, we're working with the spine and how the spine connects to the peripherals, okay, the peripherals of the body. So, and I just come back a little bit here. You can take your arms out, and what we do is we breathe in. So this is also a qigong, an energy type of move. And then we press out, we open the chest. And again, breathing in. And then exhale, pressing out. And again, breath in, you draw the energy in. And exhale, pressing out. And again, drawing the energy in, you breathe in. And exhale out. And again, breath in, draw the energy in. And exhale out. We relax the hands down. And then also to help, we just do a small exercise, and it's just to help the base of the brain here. And everyone can do this. And so you think of your nose drawing a 20-cent piece in space. So you can, again, you can close your eyes and just draw that circle. Because we get so much tension that gathers around the back of the skull here. So you can just feel that movement. So again, as mentioned, the somatic processes are working towards what it's like to be a body. Sometimes we just forget. And then we'll circle the other way. And the word, of course, embodied, it's a big word. But it's simply about connection to self, connection to other, connection as a community. And then you can come into stillness if you've joined me. And I hope that, yeah, this gives you at least, some experience. As I said, it's very experiential, somatic work. It's actually doing the movements as such. Also, there's an aspect of what I do is observing the mind and how it processes through the body. So we call it body-mind integration. And so I do observe if, of course, all this type of stiffness in the body, and it's going to take a long time. I'm not saying this is a quick fix, but at least if people can get to know, oh yeah, oh, my shoulder doesn't move, that's a great place to start. A lot of the times people may not even know how much, the shoulder isn't moving, or they've got a lot more movement in one shoulder and less in the other. So it's that constant awareness. So I think that's it for now. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks so much, Leanne. It was fantastic to have the overview from Lena explaining the importance of being physically active, and then to be able to have a practical session with you. Because we've got a little bit of time up our sleeve, I've actually had a couple of questions come through. Can I pose them to you, Leanne, at this point in time? Yep. So I'll just open up the chat. So we had a question to do with sleep. Would the jiggling and breathing help with sleep? Sometimes an issue as we age. You're on mute, Leanne.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You know, yawning is fantastic. You know, when we wake up in the morning, we naturally yawn, but it wakes us up. The body knows. When we get tired at night, we start yawning. If that yawning process stops, what we can do is that we can fake it. Like they say, fake it until you make it, right? So you can actually start yawning, help your body close down, help your body to relax. So yes, it can help with sleep, because look, sleep can be many things. You know, it's really hard. So I'm speaking generally here, but sometimes it's overthinking. And, you know, we think, you know, and even sometimes we don't even know we think. We're sort of in that space, you know, sometimes you sort of just space out, or you can see people who are a bit spaced out. And that's sort of telling us that, wow, that energy is sort of drifting off somewhere. So what we need to do is bring it back and bring it down. Sleep relates to coming down, okay, not up high. So yawning, sighing, yes, jiggling, anything that can bring that energy down is going to be helpful to engage in sleep.
Fantastic. Yeah, and having a few comments here from everybody who really enjoyed that practical session, myself included. And a quick question about, are there any research articles or peer-reviewed studies about somatics that you can recommend? And that's something that we can share with the participants after this session. But yeah, maybe we'll follow up with you for some recommended peer-reviewed reading.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, I can supply that. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. That was a very well enjoyed practical session.
Great. Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
And now I have the pleasure to pass over to Lana and Tom from the city of Boroondara, and they're going to be presenting us with a case study of a functional fitness program that they've been undertaking, and share their learnings to date. So I invite Lana and Tom to switch on their videos and their microphones, and they can begin their presentation for us.
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself then. I'll just share my screen again. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you, Leanne. I don't think I've yawned so much at this time of the day. It was fantastic to get all that out. Today, I'm here with my colleague, Tom Thompson, to discuss a recent program we delivered to re-engage older people in exercise and movement post the lockdowns that we've experienced in the past 2 years. And the program that we'll be speaking about today was run on Wurundjeri Wurrung land. And I'd like to firstly acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners and the original custodians of that land. First of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about Boroondara. We have a higher than average older population, with Council's population forecast indicating that the proportion of people aged 55 years and over will rise by approximately 7,800 people by 2028. And this will equate to around about 29% of the overall population in Boroondara. As a member of the World Health Organization's global network of age-friendly cities and communities since 2012, we are committed to ensuring that all of our residents have an opportunity to participate in healthy ageing. Today, Tom is going to take you through the specifics of the program, but first I want to tell you a little bit about how we got there in the first place. So at the beginning of 2021, we reached out to our community members and sector professionals to gain an understanding of the topics and issues that mattered to them, and in particular, issues that had emerged through the pandemic. A strong theme that came from this was that there is a significant barrier for some people to participate in healthy ageing activities, and that the pandemic had only intensified that across 2020 and into 2021. With regard to this, we were able to conclude the following barriers to participation through some focus groups and surveys that were held. So a lack of confidence or fear of injury, the cost of participation, not wanting to exercise alone, and an awareness of services offered. So in response to this and looking at fitness that had been lost over that time of lockdown, we developed the following action. To partner with the Ymca to provide a range of functional fitness programs and information on healthy living outside of sport and recreation centres. So you may have a couple of thoughts already around some of the inclusions that I've mentioned in this action, so I'll quickly just break that down a little bit. So first of all, why the Ymca? Well, the Ymca are the contracted partner in Boroondara to run our recreational facilities, and they have a strong experience in this area, particularly with programming for older adults. We have also been looking to strengthen our relationships in the community with organisations who provide services and programs for older adults. So this was a no-brainer to be working with the Ymca. Why outside of sport and recreation centres? Well, I'm sure we all know it. You take a little bit of time out of your exercise program, or more so you've never had an exercise program, and walking into that gym can be a very daunting task. And many people told us that they would not go to the gym because they felt intimidated or out of their depth. So bringing this program into settings which made people feel comfortable was going to be key. And it also gave us a great opportunity to work with some of the senior centres run by community organisations and create effective partnerships which both strengthen their position in the community whilst enabling us to reach out to more of the community who are connected with their services. Functional fitness. Some of you may not have heard of this before, others may have. These are the exercises designed to build upper and lower body strength and mobility to help participants complete everyday activities such as walking up and down stairs, getting out of bed, getting up off the floor, and putting things on high shelves. Specifically, our program is designed for older adults who hadn't exercised for some time or were new to exercise. And its aim was to get people back to some type of exercise that meets their needs and interests and give them the option to know how to continue their fitness after the program finishes. Importantly, after each class, a healthy morning tea is provided to participants and time for them to socialise. We did this because A, you're always guaranteed to get more participants when there's free food, and B, any opportunity to have people fostering those social connections amongst themselves only benefits them, and it makes the program that much more enjoyable. So that was a quick rundown of the why. I'm now going to pass it over to Tom, and he's going to have a chat about some of the what and the how of the program.
Thanks, Lana, and hello, everyone. My name's Simon. I work as a Policy and Projects Officer in Lana's team. So as Lana touched upon, through our research, we identified a number of barriers to older adults participating in exercise. The objectives of the program was to therefore address some of these barriers, in particular, building participants' confidence to continue with regular physical activity once the program had ended. Apologies, I just changed that. Building participants' confidence to continue with regular physical activity once the program had ended. Increasing their awareness of the services available to them across the municipality. and providing an opportunity for group exercise and social connection. The program also looked to achieve a positive impact on participants' mental and physical well-being, as well as develop our team's relationships with the program partners and identify opportunities for future collaboration. So the initial program was held over 6 weeks in November and December last year at the Baldwin Evergreen Centre. The Baldwin Evergreen Centre provides aged services and programs to residents in the north of the municipality. Each participant paid $25, which provided them with a weekly functional fitness class and a healthy afternoon tea. The program was targeted at older adults new to exercise or who hadn't exercised for some time, with participants prescribed a range of simple exercises using dumbbells, resistance bands, their own body weight, and seated and standing exercises. All participants were required to complete a physical activity readiness questionnaire prior to participating in the program to ensure they were safely able to increase their level of physical activity. Participants on the first program ranged between 60 and 80 years of age. Additional activities were also provided to help achieve our program objectives, as well as keep the program engaging. These additional activities included simple fitness tests at the start and end of the program, a presentation delivered by the Ymca on the benefits of physical activity, the government's physical activity guidelines, as well as ideas on how to stay active at home, a take-home exercise pack participants could do in their free time, as well as information on services offered at the venues and across the municipality, and a class at the nearest Burundara Leisure and Aquatic facility. This class was to help build participants' confidence to possibly attend one of these facilities once the 6-week program had finished. As identified, the initial program was held in November and December last year at the Baldwin Evergreen Centre. Since that program, we have arranged 3 further programs starting next month at various locations across Burundara. One of these programs is at Kew Senior Centre, again in the north of the city, another program at Camberwell Community Centre in the centre of the city, and a final program at Ashburton Senior Centre in the south. All venues were able to provide in-kind use of their facilities in support of the program. In return, Council was able to provide additional exposure to the venue through the marketing of the program, as well as provide participants with information on ongoing exercise opportunities at each of the facilities, with the aim of transitioning participants into one of their existing programs once our program had finished. A range of marketing channels were used to promote the program. This included marketing collateral provided to a range of community organisations, targeted social media ads, and a write-up on the first program in Council's Burundara Bulletin. This channel proved to be most effective with our target audience. So here we have a more detailed outline of the program. Each class focused on building upper and lower body strength, balance, and mobility. We also have information on the fitness tests completed at the start and end of the program. The tests were optional for participants to complete, but allowed them to measure their progress over the course of the 6 weeks, and also provided our team with some data on the impact of the program. Additional instructors attended the program in week 1 and week 6 to assist participants with the tests. As you can see, these tests included a 30-second sit to stand, a 2-minute step in place, and a 2.4 metre up and go. Here is an example of some of the exercises completed during the class. As you can see, participants used resistance bands, dumbbells, their own body weight, and chairs to complete a range of strength, mobility, and balance exercises. Participants were able to go at their own pace and take a break if they needed, and the instructor was able to suggest alternative exercises if required. In terms of program evaluation, we used both quantitative and qualitative data to measure the impact of the program against our objectives. The fitness tests at the start and end of the program allowed us to measure the physical impact of the program on participants. We also asked all participants to complete a program survey during the final session. The questions allowed them to self-report the impact of the program on their physical and mental well-being, as well as provide us with feedback on the program delivery. For example, the intensity of the weekly exercises, and of course, the quality of the afternoon tea. This information allowed us to evaluate the format of the first program for the delivery of the later programs. Participants would also be asked to complete a 12-month survey to allow us to understand the impact of the program longer term, in particular, whether they continued with regular physical activity. So the results. For the fitness tests, there was an average increase of between 19 and 23% on each of the tests between week 1 and week 6. In the table on the right-hand side, we can see the average number of sit to stand increased from 9 to 11 squats, the average number of 2-minute step in place from 60 to 74 steps, and the time taken to complete the 2.4 metre up and go down from 7.9 seconds to 6.3 seconds. This increase in performance can be attributed to the program, as well as potentially participants feeling more confident to complete the tests at the end of the 6 weeks. In terms of the survey feedback, you can see here some of the comments received from participants. Themes in the written responses included general enjoyment of the class, the physical benefits from completing the exercises, as well as an increase in motivation to continue with regular physical activity. These themes were supported in the multiple choice section of the survey, with all respondents either agreeing or strongly agreeing that the program had a positive impact on their physical well-being, that the program has motivated them to be more active, and that they feel more confident to attend the group fitness class in future. Respondents also agreed or strongly agreed that they feel more connected with other people as a result of the program. So if we return to the original program objectives, we can see that the program achieved each of its objectives. We were able to achieve a positive impact on participants' well-being, provide opportunities for social connection, build participants' confidence to continue with regular physical activity, increase participants' understanding of the benefits of physical activity and awareness of services available across the municipality, and develop strong relationships with program partners and identify opportunities for future collaboration, which Lana will speak to now.
Thanks, Tom. Just share my screen again. Okay. So this has been a really rewarding program for us to work on, and an important aspect also is sharing the information so that people can continue that fitness journey on with them. And hopefully that visit to the Ymca gives them a little bit more comfortability to go to the Ymca and to explore some further programming. It's also been a great opportunity for us to partner with the Ymca and our senior centres and the community centre. Strengthening council's offerings to the community through collaboration with established community entities provides great benefits, not only to the program participants, but also to each of the partners, including council. So from here, we really hope to build on the success of the program and the relationships that we have developed. Currently, we are working with the Ymca to develop further programming for older adults in 2022. And this will specifically look into walking clubs and programs and the use of outdoor exercise stations in local parks. We're also really excited as construction has just commenced on the Victoria Park Regional Playground in Kew, and this will include a functional fitness exercise station specifically designed with older people in mind. And this should be completed by July. And we'll look to activate this space and get people down there and engaged and using that equipment. Thank you for listening to our journey with this program today. And if you've got any questions or you'd like any further information from Tom and I, you're welcome to put in some chat questions, or you can contact us afterwards, because we're always up for a chat and sharing information. So please reach out. Thank you.
That was a great presentation, Tom and Lana. Thanks for sharing the learnings that you've been gathering in this initial program and the exciting news about the expansion to 3 other programs for 2022. And I think it's a really good example of a fairly low cost solution that can be offered to our communities and our residents through our councils and their recreation partners. And yeah, it really shows what can be done to reach people who need to have an environment with some supervision and some basic exercise equipment and the social connection that can also offer. So I think that the presentations that we've had today have really set the scene for the importance of the physical activity for older adults, some practical examples that Leanne took us through, and then a really great example of a local government offering these services in an environment that makes it accessible and inclusive for the residents. So it's been a fantastic packaging up of these different aspects. And we've just got a few minutes left. So I'm just looking in our chat section here. We have a couple of questions coming through, which is great. I encourage you to keep popping them in there. One of our participants would like to know about the continued uptake of exercise for participants in that pilot program 12 months afterwards. Now, I'm not sure that the 12-month period has actually elapsed yet, but if I could just ask maybe Tom, did you have any information on exercise take-up by those participants outside of the 6-week program?
I don't. We haven't completed that 12-month survey yet. But respondents to the survey did indicate that they would all look to continue with a regular physical activity program at the end of the 6 weeks.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I guess we need some more time to elapse before we can understand the impact longer term. And we do have a question around why 6 weeks was chosen for the program.
Yeah, so 6 weeks was really, we thought that was a suitable amount of time for someone who was new to exercise to commit to, and also, yeah, achieve some benefits from the exercises that they were doing.
Yeah, yep. That sounds good. So yeah, if there are any other questions, we will be sharing the recording of this session with participants and also on our website as soon as we can make that available. And we will be sharing an evaluation, just a short 3-question survey monkey with participants. So if we have any resources or details from our speakers to share with you, we'll also share that in that communication. We will have copies of the PowerPoint presentations also available for participants. So you will go away with a whole bunch of resources to look back on and gain additional details about what we have covered today. So I guess we're coming up to our official end time of the 12:15. I hope that everybody has enjoyed this almost a lunchtime learning type session. And I extend my gratitude to all of the speakers who've shared from their work in their areas of passion today, and just to acknowledge the value for everybody, myself included, in maintaining our physical and mental connections and our ability to undertake our day-to-day activities as we all move into the future with ageing. And thank you to all of our participants. We've had a great range of participants join in today. So I thank you all for your time, and take this opportunity to wrap up and thank everybody for their participation. Thank you.